16 weeks in my intro to criminal justice class. All right, so how long has it been? 15, 16 weeks we're coming up on? Interesting conduit. That's an interesting quandary. That's a long time. And now we come to an end. I thought it would be appropriate for me to now provide you with a summary of things that you may want to know for the criminal justice final exam. So here goes. In a bifurcated trial, different issues of the case are decided in separate hearings or trials. In the guilt phase, the jury determines whether the prosecution proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed a capital crime. It is true, a judge or a jury may find a criminal defendant not guilty even if they believe he's probably guilty. A not guilty verdict means that the trial of fact believes that the prosecutor has failed to establish the defendant's guilt. There's that word, beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, the purpose of parole is to reward inmates who follow prison rules and behave positively while incarcerated, and to provide citizens with a more cost-effective form of supervision than incarceration without sacrificing protection of society. And when you look at restorative justice, what is it? Restorative justice emphasizes the offender's responsibility to participate in other stakeholders, victims, members of the community in repairing the injury and damage caused by their criminal behavior. It is true, since 1992, the trend for reporting crimes has been increasing steadily. Unreported and unrecorded crimes together are called what? The dark figure of crime. It's also true, voluntary manslaughter occurs when an offender is provoked and loses control, killing his or her victim in the heat of passion. The prevalence of HIV, AIDS in inmate populations is 2.5 times higher than in the general U.S. population. However, the rate of HIV, AIDS among the state and among inmates is declining steadily. What is the reintegration model? It is a viewpoint that assumes that the offender must be helped to readjust and fit successfully back into the community. And when we think about crimes against morality, we have to remember the crimes against morality refers to public order crimes, which includes offenses related to sexuality, prostitution, gambling, and pornography. And when you think of procedural justice, you have to remember that procedural justice consists of providing an opportunity for a citizen to explain his side of the story in a given situation, and or the officer in turn to make the decisions in a fair manner within this context, must ensure that he is responsible or responsive in a respectful manner. Abuse of authority occurs when police disregard policies, rules, or laws in the performance of their duties. One of the greatest benefits of police discretion is that it allows officers to act in a manner, in the most just manner in a given situation. And then you think about the police occupational subculture. The police occupational subculture is a set of norms and beliefs held by most officers in a given country. And what is the complaint? The complaint is the document containing the initial crimes with which a defendant is charged. A defendant in custody is entitled to a speedy arraignment or a hearing before a judge or a magistrate. During this hearing, the complaint is read. In most cases, instead of a grand jury hearing, a preliminary hearing is held. Yeah, it's true. Illegal drugs and other contraband are pervasive within jails and prisons, even though these substances are strictly prohibited. The term corrections, what can I say about that? It's used today. It denotes society's efforts to punish and treat individuals who break the law and thereby protect the public. The Auburn State Prison System. The Auburn State Prison System, established in 1816, became the model for the Auburn system of prison administration. And then supermax jail. Supermaximum security prisons or supermax prisons provide the highest levels of security possible. They provide solitary confinement using the latest correctional technology. The population of inmates with mental disorders in jails and prisons is surging. Yeah, that's true. The writ of habeas corpus is a written judicial order requiring that a prisoner's case be reviewed in court, to determine whether the individual is being held, but not only being held in a justified manner. At the core of the punishment model of corrections is the assumption that the offender is inherently a bad person and deserves to be placed under correctional authority for punishment. Now, a capital crime is an offense punishable by execution. I think we've talked a whole lot on capital crime and capital punishment. And yes, it's true, legislators pass laws, judges, and the part of the legal community interpret those laws. Going rate is a generally agreed upon sentence for a defendant based on the crime and the prior record. By 1776, as many as 2,000 criminals were being transported each year from Britain to the American colonies. These criminals were not placed in penal facilities, but were sold as servants to private individuals. That's a practice known as indentured servitude. Now, when you think about medical or the medical model, we have to remember that the medical model is a viewpoint focusing on mental illness and behavioral problems such as committing a crime. Solitary confinement. Well, solitary confinement involves physically segregating inmates from other inmates and severely restricting their interactions, which are generally limited to correctional staff. And finally, when you think about this, a present-day derivative of the classical and neoclassical schools of criminology is rational choice theory. Rational choice theory. Okay, that's it. I hope you all have enjoyed this little review. As I promised, I'm sprinkling a little gold dust, not the whole tub, but a little gold dust. And I wanted you to know it's been a pleasure working with all of you. I learned something from every class. And for my other viewers, yes, I'm preparing for another final exam, another semester passed. Hey, I'm sure you could find this information useful as well. Have a great day.